Hello friends, welcome back to the Craft Castle. My name is Ashley and I am back with a Siser Romeo tutorial. Now, I want to stop here just for a quick second and note that if you don't have a Siser Romeo, but you have a Siser Juliet, this tutorial can be for you as well. I know that the machines are fairly new on the market, so there's not a lot of knowledge behind either of these machines. Just know that both machines are exactly the same. They have the same technology. The only difference between the two machines is the size. So if you are in the hunt for one of the new Siser machines, or if you're unsure of which one to get, the Siser Romeo can cut 24 inches wide by a hole, like as long as your material can go on the length. And then the Siser Juliet can do 12 inches wide and then whatever the length of your material is. So just know, even though I'm going to be using my Siser Romeo for this project, you could also do the same steps and the same cutting and everything that we're going to be doing today in the Siser Juliet. That being said, have you seen the puff vinyl t-shirts that are tone on tone? Like white puff vinyl with white sweatshirts, or maybe black puff vinyl with a black sweatshirt. I'm going to be doing one today. I have been wanting one for so long, and I finally scooped up a black sweatshirt so I could use some of my black puff HTV that I got from Tech Wrap. Also, have you seen those sweatshirts or even shirts that say Mama in like a curved font, and then there is like a kid's initials or their full name on the sleeve? I'm going to be making that today too. So I'm going to be blending two sweatshirts in one today. I'm going to be doing a tone on tone with 3D puff vinyl, and then also we're going to curve some text and make something absolutely fabulous in the end. I am so excited. Do you want to get started? Let's get started. Okay, so the very first thing we want to do is open up a new window in Siser Leonardo program. So all I'm going to do is come down here to design. Okay, so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to insert a text box. However, we are going to go into the text and I want to work on the Mama portion of this. So I'm going to go over, instead of doing the text, I'm going to go over here to the curved feature. Okay, this box is going to pop up, and what I want to do is put in the lettering that I want. So I'm going to be doing Mama. And then I'm going to change over my font style. And the hardest part of any project is choosing your font. I can promise you that. The font that I'm going to be doing today is the Jackport regular font. It's a downloaded font. I'll link it in the description of this video. So I'm going to click that font. I'm going to go back into properties. And at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust the spacing a little bit. So this baseline, I want my letters to be further apart. Okay, if you made the baseline position higher in numbers, do you see how now the lettering is all squinched together? Here, let's just make this bigger. See how the letters are all squinched together? If we take the radius baseline position and we go the negative direction, do you see how now we have more spacing in between our letters? So if you want to adjust the spacing of your letters, you're wanting to adjust the baseline position. So I'm going to give it, because we're using puff vinyl, and from what I remember the last time I used puff vinyl, is that you want to give some breathing room for your letters. So I am just going to, it doesn't matter what size of font we're going to have right now, because we're going to resize it later. It's really just about this base position and how far apart your letters are spaced. Again, because I'm using puff vinyl, I am going to try and space out my lettering as much as possible, so it looks good and that puff will puff up and everything will look good. Okay, when I have that done, I'm just going to press apply. So this is our finished text box. I'm just going to make this bigger so we can see what we're doing. So I have seen the puff vinyl sweatshirts where it is a solid like letter. I've also seen them where it's just like a single line, and I think that looks absolutely the coolest. So that's what I'm going to do here. So now that we have that, it is a solid font and I want it to be like a single line. What I'm going to do is come down here to build contours. I'm just going to click this button. We're going to go into editable contours because I want this to be a cut only. I'm going to include the holes. Do you see how we now have no holes in the Mama? I'm going to include the holes, and I'm going to change my contour color over just so we can see what we're doing. I'm also going to bring it to the front, and I'm going to change my corner style from rounded to sharp. Because this font is also sharp, I want to make sure and keep them sharp. Okay, then all we're going to do is we're going to take this offset. If you wanted to go out, you could, and it would start looking like this. Let's zoom in. Do you see that right there where you're zooming in? Now, I don't want to zoom in. What I want to do is go out. For some weird reason, when we start to do this, we don't actually get to see what it is that we're trying to create. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to go into wireframe real quick. Now, do you see this pink line? It's going to be faint, but do you see that pink line? That's going to be our inset. Now, I don't want it too thick, and I also don't want it too thin. So I'm just going to try and eyeball it to my liking. Let's go in just a little bit more. Okay, that looks good to me. Let's zoom out. Everything that's in between the pink line and the black line, so this border right here, that's going to be what our puff HTV is. Okay, when I have that done, I'm just going to uncheck this wireframe, and I'm going to press apply. Okay, now that I have both of those layers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both layers. I'm going to come up here into pass and then slice intersect. It'll look like nothing happened. It'll look like you just welded it together. But if we take this and we drag this down, this is what we're going to cut out of puff HTV. Now this right here, we can just go ahead and delete. So now the next thing we need to do is put the names or initials on the sleeve. Here's the deal. My kids have really long names. So I am just going to use their initials for this. I'm going to move this up and I'm going to hover into this T. Now, instead of going into the arc, because we don't want to arc this, I'm just going to go into the text mode. And then I'm going to enter my text. My kids' initials are T and P. I'm just going to enter, put them in together. Okay, so I'm going to use the same font as what we had for the Mama. The only difference here is that I am not going to make this like an outlined letter. I'm just going to leave it the original way it looks. I do not want to weld these together, so I'm going to uncheck that weld, and then I'm going to press apply. So these right here are going to be the letters that are going to be on my sleeve. Now what you could do, which is something that I'm going to do, is I'm going to go into this box right here and I'm going to insert a heart. Just going to create a heart and just plop it in there. I kind of want that heart with my kids' names. It's going to be so cute. Okay, if you want to zoom in a little bit, all you need to do is click this magnifying glass and let's just draw a box around that. There we go. Okay, we'll take our little hand tool. We'll just drag it over, center in. And we'll do the arrow tool. Okay, now what we can do is we can uncheck this box right here and you can resize your heart, making it any shape that you want. Oh, I think this is going to be darling and everything's black. Okay, I want to ungroup these, so I'm just gonna right click and press pass and then ungroup pass. Just move these over. Okay, now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select the T, P, and the heart. I'm going to go down to align and then center. And do I want to resize that heart? Let's just make the heart just a little bit smaller. Doing the same thing, I'm going to select T, P, and the heart, and we're going to align it. There we go. Okay, when I have that looking the way that I want, I'm just going to right click and I'm going to press group. Okay, let's press this 100%. It's going to take us back. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is taking our blank t-shirt, sweatshirt, whatever it is that you're doing, and you want to take a measuring tape to your shirt just so we can make sure that we have the correct sizing. Okay, I'm going to do a 13-inch across Mama, so I'm just going to select my Mama, and we're going to come over here. Wow, it's really close to 13 inches. I'm going to select that, everything else, and just press 13 and press return. And then for the sleeve, I want it to be about 3 inches. So I'm going to click that and then click the height. Just do the 3. Okay, so I'm not going to be using a map for this project. One of the coolest things about any Siser machine is that you don't necessarily have to use Siser material in order to do matless. I know with the Cricut Venture, you have to use Cricut branded material in order to do a matless cut. You don't have to do that with the Siser machines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here into the artboard. Okay, my media width is going to be the width of my HTV. This puff HTV is just shy of 10 inches. So I'm going to do 9.5 just because I want to make sure that everything will fit. And then the length, I am just going to select a really long number because I have a huge roll right here, right? We're not going to need the entire roll because it's definitely not this long, but I am just going to do a really long length. Okay, then what I'm going to do is taking this right here. This is obviously wider than the width of my material. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate this up here with this green little dot. I'm just going to rotate this 90 degrees. Okay, then what I'm going to do is just press the letter O on the keyboard. That O on the keyboard is sending it to origin, which is the bottom left. Anytime you are working with the Sisers, it is definitely different than the Cricuts. The Cricuts, we load everything in the top left. With the Sisers, we load everything into the bottom left. Okay, because I already have something in the origin, I am just going to tuck this in really close to the rest of my stuff just so I can save room on material. Okay, now all we need to do is send design. We want to do all the artwork that fits on the page, and we've already moved everything to the origin, so we're good to go. We just want to press send. Okay, so now what we need to do is just turn on our Siser. The one cool thing about all this cutting features is that, you know, when sometimes you like lose track of where your weeding is and stuff like that, what you can do is do an auto weed box. And that, when we click out of it, do you see that like line that's right here? That is going to be an additional cut, and that is just going to cut out our decal for us. So it's going to be easier to weed in the final project. Okay, then what you want to do is we are going to insert our HTV. So very important is these little things that are right here. This is what grabs your material. So every single time you move these, you want to make sure that this black thing is on top of what feels like sandpaper. There's multiples of them. For something that's only this wide, you're not going to use all of them, so you can just move them off to the side. But you're wanting to make sure that you put these on top of your sandpapers. There is also a flap that's over here on the right of your machine. When you can't adjust these when the flap is up. So if you can't adjust these, just push the flap down, and that way you can now adjust your rollers. Okay, that being said, you always want to load in your material from the back. So I'm going to take my material and I'm going to insert it from the back. Now you want the material to be underneath where the black things are going to be gripping onto the sandpaper. So like where I have it right now, I like the look of that. So I'm just going to bring it up, and then I'm going to pull my hammer up. So now this right here is stuck into place. Okay, so the very next thing you want to do is your head is right here, but our material is over here. What you're going to do is going over here on your touch screen, you want to bring your head over to the corner of your material. So I'm just going to hit that right arrow and move it over to the right. Okay, and before I move any further, what I'm going to do is select my cut settings. So I'm going to go into cut settings. I already have loaded up a setting of Polytape HTV. Now, I am unsure if this right here is going to be the correct setting for that. So now what I'm going to do is there's a little t-shirt button that's on your Siser. I am just going to select that. It's going to do some cuts. Okay, I am just going to push my material forward a little bit so I can see my little cut. This is your test cut right here. I'm just going to see if it weeds. And it weeded perfectly. No issues. And then also it did not go through my backing. So I like those cut settings. So we're going to just move the head back. Okay, we are going to avoid that test cut right there. Okay, so now that we have done all of that, you want to make sure and mirror this. We are using HTV, so you're going to mirror this. Then the next thing you want to do is you want to go over here and you want to press this area test. We want to make sure that where we're cutting is going to be actually on the material. So then we're going to press area test, and then we're going to press yes. Okay, anytime you're doing an area test, what we're looking for is this blade to stay on our material the entire time. Okay, We're not going to have any issues with it cutting because everywhere this was at was on my material, and my material is not crunching up. We're not having any issues with misaligning. Now that we have that done, now what you want to do. Now when you have that done, we have not only done the area test, we've also done a cut setting test. We've also mirrored. Now that we have all that done, all you want to do is press send to cutter. Now that we have that cutting, now we're just going to let this cut and do its job. Okay, now that it's done cutting, anytime you're working with a new material, I know that we've already done a test cut, but just to verify, you want to try and weed just a little bit. Now, this is weeding perfectly fine. Had it not, I would just send this to cutter again and have the machine do the cut all over again. But since it's good, I am just going to take my flacker, push it down. We're going to take this out, and now I'm going to weed this. Now that we're in the weeding process, you just want to go ahead and heat up your heat press. For my Easy Press and this tack wrap vinyl, we are going to be doing 310 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 seconds. So because we've added this Easy Weed box, now I'm not really going to be struggling on like where in the world I'm weeding, because it's just going to weed out for me. Okay, so this right here, we are going to throw away. Now, all you want to do is now trim off the excess HTV. So I am just going to weed out this right here and trim it up over here like this. Okay, so this right here we can save for another time. Then what you want to do is just keep weeding out. You want to weed out the excess of whatever it is that you do not want. So like for me in this right here, I created that inset. This I want to get rid of. And then I also want the inside of this A. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to go over into the M, doing the same thing. I'm going to get rid of the inside portion of that M. There's the A. We've weeded out the A now. Let's do that last M. Okay, and then this should be easy for me just because it's going to be that one inside portion of the P. Okay, now I want to cut out just this portion that's going to go on the sleeve. We're going to save that for later. Okay, next thing I like to do is I like to always do like a middle line on my decals. So I'm just going to put these together. I'm going to line up the edges of my letter just like that. Do you see how the corners right here line up perfectly? Okay, holding these two together. All I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little pinch right here in the carrier sheet. And I'm also going to do one at the bottom right here. So now when we unfold it, do you see this like crease that's right here in these two spots? That is the direct middle of our entire decal. So it'll be a lot easier to line up on our sweatshirt when we go to press this. Now I don't necessarily have to do that for this because it's just gonna go on our sleeve. Okay, let's take our sweatshirt over to the heat press and I'm gonna show you a little trick I have. Okay, so here is my decal. The one major tip that I have is taking your sweatshirt or whatever garment that you're using. What you want to do is we're going to fold this in half. Give it a good shake. Make sure that we have it nice and folded in half. Then what you want to do is you want to open up your heat press and we want to put this in our heat press folded in half. Okay, we're going to slide this in and let's just press that R button just for a couple seconds. Okay, and now when we unfold this, do you see this line that's right here? So what this line is now going to tell us is this is the direct middle, right? And remember those fold lines that we had in our decal? Now what we can do is we can line up the fold lines with our decal lines. Okay, let's just lay this on for just a second. This HTV, for some reason, the carrier sheet isn't very sticky, so it doesn't want to stick to my shirt. So all I'm going to do is take some heat resistant tape. You want to make sure and do heat resistant tape. I'm just going to push this down in a couple spots because I'm going to hold this up and I'm going to verify that my fold lines on my decal and also my shirt are perfect. Okay, I like the look of that. Now that I have that taped on there, I'm going to turn this upside down just because the heat press doesn't like the hood. It'll get bunched up. Laying this flat. Okay, so I have my sweatshirt. It's upside down with the hood on the bottom just because it's going to be too much bunching for the back side of this heat press. Then all I'm going to do is I'm going to push this in and I'm going to press the R button. We're going to let this press for 15 seconds. This heat press is just going to push down and then bring itself back up automatically. I'm not going to have to do anything to it. All right, let's pull this out. And this stuff just comes right up. Oh my goodness. Are you ready for this? Look. Okay. I freaking love this. Do you see that? And there's just like a little bit of puff right there. Oh, this is gorgeous. Okay, so the cool thing about a folded sweatshirt is, you know, those lines in the folded sweatshirt, we already have the line. So what I'm going to do now that I have my front done, I am left-handed, so I'm going to go with my left side of my shirt. I'm going to unfold my sweatshirt sleeve. I have a fold line that's right here. I don't need to technically fold this because this heart right here, that's the direct middle, right? So I'm just going to line up my heart with the fold line. Put some heat resistant tape on there just because it doesn't want to stick onto the garment because it's not sticky. Put this into my heat press. Doing the same thing we did before. We just want to press that button and press it down in there. Pull this out and look at that. How cool. It's going to be hard to see because we're doing tone on tone. But look how cool that is. Oh my gosh. Who is excited to see this sweatshirt? I'm excited. I've been wanting one of these for so long. And I just made it myself with like a little bit of HTV. It is going to be hard to see, but that's the whole point with this thing. But it says Mama on there. It is puffy. And then we have my kids' names here in puff. There you go. So you got TP and then a heart. And then you got a Mama. Oh my gosh. And this is like perfectly centered on there. Of course, it is going to be hard to see, but it is centered on there. It looks really cool. I love the thin line of this font. Yes, I love it. Do you love it? All right, y'all. I sure hope I inspired you to create, and I'll see you later.